Tonight's call topic is natural solutions for anxiety in adults. Now, thankfully, some of the rates and spikes we saw in mental health disorders did decrease following 2022. They peaked around definitely in the middle of the pandemic. 2021 was probably the highest we ever saw it. Rates of depressive symptoms in US adults went from 8.9% to 32%. So it literally quadrupled as far as depression goes. Anxiety had various ranges in terms of what and how that was measured and who it was measured in. I was paying more attention to small business owners, where it went up to 49%, up into the even low 60s in certain brackets of small business owners during the pandemic, which was a significant rise in the incidence of anxiety among that class of the population. And teenagers also saw a multitude-fold increase in levels of anxiety and mood disorders in general over the pandemic. So we saw a big spike in our population. It has started coming down, which is really good. But there is so much work to be done in this area. And many of us are already aware that there's many things that play into achieving mental health in someone's body. And there's a lot of different things that are under attack right now in 21st century living. What's unique about the way we encourage our health coaches to address anxiety with their clients and the way we talk about mental health at Holistic Health Educators is what I would consider a truly holistic approach to anxiety. Who had a chance to read over the email that was sent out today and the 5 major categories that were listed out below? So I would encourage you to go back and read through that. That's the same framework that we'll be following for tonight. I do have some tangible resources that I'm going to be sending you guys on this call as well that you're welcome to use for yourself and to use with the people you work with. But when it comes to mental health in general, there are 5 categories that we discuss about all the different things that could be influencing it. Starting with biology, moving into psychology, sociology, situational and like life stability, and then spiritual, that category. I'm going to start off in the biology category just because that's one way to make sure that the rest of your life's not going to be an uphill battle. And then we're going to move into the other call topics. But I just want to share one thing with you really quick. And it is that I am so happy to be talking to you guys about this today because I know what it's like to struggle with anxiety. And I have also come out the other side of that where I can like drive in the car with no music, no sound, and just feel total peace. Like I could not believe how quiet my mind got after this was resolved. I was like, this is so peaceful. Like I just felt present at meal times. I felt present when I was driving down the road. I felt present going out to dinner with friends. And that's one of the biggest telltale indicators of anxiety is when how you're feeling does not match your circumstance. Okay. If you feel like you're internally about to go out to war, but you are in a restaurant with your friends, or you are in your family room having dinner, or you are laying in your bed in a safe house in a safe country without impending doom, but internally you feel like something could break through the front door at any minute and tear apart your world. That's what anxiety is, guys. Anxiety is a nervous system dysregulation when how you're feeling on the inside does not match your physical environment chronically. Like obviously there's always untangible things that can be stressing us out, or like relationships. Obviously that's not like a soldier breaking in your front door, but that level of disconnect where it's like, wow, I actually think I'm stressed out more than I need to be. That's what anxiety is. Okay. So before we get into this breakdown, go ahead and throw a 1 in the chat if that's something you feel like you've experienced at least once in your life, where you're like, I think my nervous system is dysregulated. I am more on edge than I probably need to be right now, all things considered. So even just recognizing that there's a gap there, very helpful. Okay. It's like, okay, I'm going to call it what it is. There's some nervous system dysregulation. One thing I'm going to mention about the nervous system is it's not like the hormonal system. Your body's hormone system, the whole objective is to reach homeostasis in your bloodstream. So when blood glucose rises, your pancreas releases insulin to drop blood glucose. And when blood glucose drops, your pancreas releases glucagon to get blood glucose to rise. And you're trying to reach this perfect balance of blood glucose. And when you're low in estrogen, your hypothalamus releases gonadotropin stimulating hormone, which then comes down to your pituitary to release those stimulating hormones, and then your estrogen levels rise. And then it stops secreting those things. And then when it comes down to too low, then it starts the whole process again. You have this ebb and flow in your body's hormone system trying to keep you totally balanced. Your nervous system isn't built in with those natural checks and balances, because sometimes periods of stress last longer than a day, right? So your nervous system isn't just like, man, we've been releasing a lot of adrenaline lately. Like, should we start releasing acetylcholine because it's been hours now, or it's been days now, or it's been months now, or it's been years now? Should we start releasing acetylcholine, guys? This has been a long, your nervous system's not doing that. It doesn't know how long you're in a fight or flight situation. It doesn't have that natural, like, oh, we've been at this for long enough. Let's go ahead and balance it out. Your nervous system doesn't do that. You have to intentionally regulate your nervous system. Your body's not doing it on its own. Okay. And that's where nature comes in. And a lot of things that naturally regulated our nervous system are now removed from our society because we live in concrete boxes, not in communities where you're like touching, feeling each other all the time and listening to the sounds of birds. If you guys could see brain scans while you're listening to sounds of birds, like it changes your brainwave state to listen to nature sounds. For any of you who follow brainwave states, you have like high beta, which is like analytical. You have normal beta, which is still critical thinking, but you're not like quite just like problem solving everything. You have alpha, which is often considered flow state. You have theta, which is reaching like deep rest, and you can still be conscious in theta, but that's like meditation. And then delta really is only reached when you're sleeping. And I believe some people have reached it before consciously, but it's very rare. So you can take someone from high beta into alpha, even theta, through sound therapy and through nature sounds. So very cool, all the ways that nature can mechanically alter our nervous system, and we can leverage that to achieve more nervous system regulation. But for a lot of people, it's going to take more than a soundtrack of nature sounds. A lot more than that. So that's what we're going to get into tonight. And first, I just want permission. I am going to go through everything I know about this in 20 minutes, as time efficient as I can. So take what serves you, leave what doesn't. This is not where I'm going to share with you the 3 things everyone needs to do to get rid of anxiety, because it's going to vary person to person. And also you're going to have clients where like you just got to be aware of all the different options. Okay. So we're going to get into it, everyone. And that's the warm up. So first of all, biology, already talked a little bit about that. We have some biological needs. And I encourage you to make your personal checklist of your biological needs for mental health. Because if I'm ever starting to feel off one day, the first thing I do is I take myself through my checklist. Have I eaten protein today? Have I gotten in the sun? Have I taken stimulants today, like caffeine, without dosing with magnesium or other minerals to counteract that? Caffeine is kind of a mineral leach from the body, and it stimulates your stimulatory neurotransmitters, not your inhibitory neurotransmitters. Stimulatory neurotransmitters will make you more alert and anxious. Inhibitory neurotransmitters make you more calm and rested. Okay. So stimulants, and then sleep. I'm like, did I even sleep last night? And have I moved my body? If I haven't done those 5 things, I'm not going to go down the deep end of reanalyzing my life and thinking what I'm doing wrong, because like those are basic biological needs. You got to sleep, you got to get sun, you got to eat protein and healthy meals, healthy, nutritious meals. You got to make sure you're not stimulating your nervous system without providing it enough support to counteract the stimulants, like dosing with magnesium or just not taking caffeine at all. And then, moving your body. So those are like the basic biological needs I put on my checklist. You guys, I encourage you, build your own checklist. Like, what are the fundamental pillars that give you health and happiness and mental health? It will vary person to person. Okay. So that's the first section, is biology. Just figure out what's there. Now, Those are more for like acute situations. If you're feeling off one day, what you can ask yourself, if people are dealing with long-term anxiety, this is where we need to go deeper and look at things like their structure and their gut health. Now, the reason why I mentioned structure is because you have cranial and sacral nerves that are your parasympathetic nerves. Parasympathetic nerves are what release the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, and that is your rest and digest neurotransmitter, one of the primary ones, along with GABA and serotonin. Those are also inhibitory. So your cranial and sacral nerves need to be firing in order for your body to release acetylcholine and be able to put you in rest and digest. Imagine someone having a car accident or a traumatic injury, and there's a subluxation in their spine around their atlas or around their cranial area, or they fall on their tailbone and their sacral nerves get thrown off. And now they have chronic anxiety and they're trying all the nutrition things and going to therapy and doing this and doing that. Lo and behold, their nerves like aren't even firing. That's such an uphill battle. So craniosacral, osteopathy, myofascial release, anything that improves nervous system communication and improves the structural integrity of the body to make sure all your nerves are firing, going to be very helpful. Have any of you guys met someone or heard a story where someone dealt with a chronic mental health issue or mood disorder or anxiety, and it was actually a physical altercation that ended up helping them out? I've heard some pretty cool stories related to that, and it's always just so fascinating to me. So make sure the body's structure is good. This is another reason why yoga is also so amazing. Yoga is like free chiropractic, free massage therapy, free myofascial release, free craniosacral therapy. Yoga can do so many things for you, integrating and breath work at the same time. So a yoga practice is just going to be phenomenal as well. So that's the first thing. If it's chronic, look at the structure. The second thing is gut health related. So many of you have heard of, prebiotics and probiotics. So prebiotics are the fibers that feed the probiotics, which are the good gut bacteria. But there's another category called postbiotic. And postbiotics include things like psychobiotics. So postbiotics are the end products of what good gut bacteria make for you. So the difference between good gut bacteria and bad gut bacteria is that good gut bacteria make nutrients for your body. Bad gut bacteria make endotoxins. That's what makes good bacteria good and bad bacteria bad. It's not just that one's cute and the other's like ugly. It's not like an ugly sweater contest in your gut. It's like we care what chemicals are these bacteria making in your body, because the bad bacteria are secreting things like and producing buildup of things like LPS, a lipopolysaccharide, which is causing inflammation, worsening gut health, giving you brain fog, making you tired after meals. Okay, so that's what the bad stuff's doing. The good stuff is making you little chemical warriors that are going to boost your overall health. And I mentioned this because there's a couple strains of bacteria. I don't remember the numbers, but there's 2 strains of Bifidobacteria longum. You can find it in one of my TikTok posts that have been identified as keystone strains that regulate the body's axis between the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal, the HPA axis, the adrenals, which is what secretes cortisol. So you can have someone who's missing these strains of bacteria, and they have unhinged anxiety. And I don't think it's solely related to them missing these bacteria, but they have been able to measure the difference that when people introduce this bacteria and improve their gut health, it naturally calms down the HPA axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. It calms that down, so there's less secretion of cortisol. So that's one of many instances where gut health and the gut bacteria plays a role. The other ones we know of, GABA is a major inhibitory neurotransmitter made in the gut. People will have seizures, they will have high-strung nervous systems, they will feel on edge, they can have, just highly correlated with epilepsy and a lot of nervous things if they don't have enough GABA, and that's a major end product of good gut health. And then also serotonin, 90% of serotonin, up to 90% of serotonin is synthesized in the gut. So those are major inhibitory neurotransmitters. And when I say inhibitory, in this case, that's a good thing. That calms the nervous system. Okay, so you have stimulatory and inhibitory. Some neurotransmitters can go either direction, like dopamine can actually be stimulatory or inhibitory. It depends what the receptor site is that it's acting on. But those other ones already mentioned are like predominantly inhibitory compared to your stimulatory ones. Okay, so I'll do a little pop quiz at the end if you guys want to feel like really confident about your neurotransmitters, because I'm not trying to confuse you right now. I'm just mentioning this. So that's another area where gut health can play a role in mental health, is just, are you even making the neurotransmitters you need to calm down? Okay. Last thing I would say about biology before we move on to psychology is that once again, if the chemicals that are released in your body during exercise could be encapsulated, it would be the best supplement on the market. It would be the best supplement on the market, like 10x better than everything else. If we could put the chemicals released in your body during physical activity into little capsules, and there's so many chemical reactions that happen, not just one, because they have tried doing that with like, here's some, growth hormone, and here's some adrenaline, some, dopamine or inhibiting the dopamine receptor sites. The point is, we've tried recreating the effects of exercise. Nothing's going to do it better for you than physical movement. So that's just like another thing we got to do. We got to do it. Okay. So I'm going to move on from biology, but those are some fundamentals. Just your homework assignment is make your personal checklist for your own biological needs and keep that close to you guys over the next century. Keep it with you over the next century, because stuff's going to get crazier. Stuff's going to get crazier around here in the world. Like, we don't even know what's going to happen next as far as electrical impulses and stuff in the environment and whatnot. You've got to have these checklists ahead of time to know how to keep yourself straight so that you can, show up and lead where you're going to be needed. So develop that now, so you have that like in stone. The next category is psychology. And for sure, this could have its own entire call. I am going to keep it brief because I want to talk about the other call topics. But what I want to mention as far as psychology goes, that you guys have to be aware of, is that the human body is so obedient to the mind. The central nervous system is the commander of the body. And your thoughts alone can trigger a chemical reaction in your body that's equivalent to that thing really happening. What this means is that sometimes there are thoughts that are putting someone in fight or flight all day long. And it's actually just the thought of it. So the whole premise of approaches like neuro-linguistic programming and counseling and different forms of talk therapy is to pay attention to how someone's talking. Because if you listen long enough, you can almost hear, is there the way they're talking about things, is it a fight or flight response? Or is it like a rest and digest, like moving towards something response, or like an enthusiasm? Oh, I want this in my life. Or is it like, oh, I don't want that. Oh, I'm so tired of this. Oh, I don't want this to happen again. Oh, I'm so nervous about this. Like, you can almost hear, just like by paying attention to the language patterns, if this person is putting themselves in fight or flight all day long with their words or not. Now, I needed a lot of help to get out of fight or flight after running a small business during the pandemic. I needed a lot of help. I hired various mentors and mental health specialists to do this type of work with me. And I compiled the names and numbers and Calendly links of them into a document that I'm going to share with you here, if any of you would like to reach out to them and have some work done with yourself. I can't even testify the benefit of even a few sessions with these people. And what I'll say about this, and what I'll say is this. It's not what the thing that annoys me about therapy is like or not about therapy, but about this topic of therapy is people are like, oh, I tried it. It doesn't really work for me. I'm like, you tried one session with one specialist. I'm like, you haven't even tried. There's like, I could rattle off 25 different forms of specialists in therapy out there. There's so many options. You can't write it off. If you do one session, you don't like it, or two sessions, you don't like it, or three sessions and you don't like it. You guys, the rest of your life is worth finding a modality that fits you. Okay. Until your financial health, physical health, relationships, and spiritual health is in a tip-top condition, I'm not so sure you should be so excited to say you don't want help with your brain, the most powerful organ in your body. That's commanding everything you do in a day. Okay. This is like the best investment we could possibly make in every category. So you know how I feel about it. You know how I feel about it. For those of you who are students, you will notice as you go through the programs, we will be increasing the amount of opportunities you have to receive that type of one-on-one mentorship and one-on work done. Because what we've noticed after running holistic health educators for over, a decade and a half now, is that what it takes to run a business is actually a lot more than knowledge. Like you got to work through so many things in your personal life in order to get a functioning business up and running. And so it's very naive of us to want to make you successful business owners and only teach you health knowledge without addressing any of the roadblocks you're going to come up against as you start putting yourself out there. I probably had to have 5 sessions alone just to help me get over my fear of posting online. And it wasn't even related to what I thought it was. It was actually something else we can talk about during after hours if you want. But I'm just giving you that as an example. Like I chose that I do not want my career to be an uphill battle, which is why I invested in meeting with specialists. Because I was like, hey, if I can get my brain working for me instead of against me, that sounds a lot more productive. Going to free up a lot of space so that I can focus on doing the things I love, right? So I'm going to share that document with you in the chat in a minute. Save that document because it's going to be a document I continue to edit over time as I find more specialists that I think just rock. In fact, there's a few people I need to add to the list. So even tonight, don't think it's like a final deal because I'm adding to it. These are just fabulous people that can really help improve someone's mental space. Okay. So that's what I'm going to say about psychology. I know there's more we could talk about there, but yep, we're going to have to move on, guys. Thanks for listening to that one with me. All right. Third category is social, which is interpersonal relationships. And please put a number 2 in the chat if there's ever been a time in your life where approximately 100% of your stress was related to a single relationship or a single conversation that did not go well, or a conversation that needs to happen that you don't know how to make it happen, or you're like, this is driving me crazy, and like you can't get it off your mind, it is wild. And I just feel like social interactions and communication is one of the most underestimated pieces in this discussion about anxiety. The amount of health coaches out there that I see just like focusing just on gut health when their clients actually don't know how to communicate and speak their mind and have authentic relationships. I'm like, I don't know if it's gut health right now. I don't know if it's gut health. It's probably bigger than that, right? So I would actually argue that improving someone's communication skills will fix their gut health faster than focusing on their gut health would fix their gut health because of how much stress, poor communication, and relationships can cause the body, which will literally automatically dysregulate the gut forever because it's tied into the immune system, right? So this is definitely when it comes to the social factor and communication. All I can say for now is sometimes it comes down to just having the bravery to instigate those conversations, and other times it comes down to actually developing ourselves and our personal life and our personal communication skills. So in the email we sent out today, I shared some of our students' favorite resources. There's several books out there. One's called Crucial Conversations. One is called Codependent No More, which is about your emotional state not being codependent on someone else, because that's actually not healthy for you or for them. You might think they're the one in the wrong, but you signing yourself up for an emotional roller coaster, depending on this other person's actions, is also pretty stressful. So Codependent No More is a really great one. The 4 Agreements is a really solid book. I would please throw in the chat if you have others that have been game changers for you. My favorite things all came from attending workshops. Like John and Narelle Kanan have hosted wonderful workshops on communication and on accepting people and just like loving them where they're at, and also learning how to communicate in a way that's neither aggressive or passive. You want that middle ground, which is called assertive communication. So there's like three major styles of communication: aggressive, assertive, and passive. So assertive is that sweet space where you can talk, but you're mindful of the people you're talking to. Okay. And then there's like a lot of subcategories like passive aggressive and covert aggressive passivism and all sorts of subcategories that people trained in psychology could talk about much more eloquently than I can. But yeah, so that's the social piece. That's the social piece. And again, that could be a whole call. I just have to acknowledge it here because it's a big part of developing human peace. And I definitely have a bright hope for where we're going to end up on that piece. I think this is unsolicited commentary, but pendulum swings are a real thing in society, you know, where like we're on one side of the pendulum and then we swing to the other. And there's definitely some pendulum swings going on right now since like social media has come out. Everyone's talking about boundaries. Everyone's talking about cutting out toxic people. And I see some things that I think have totally swung to the far opposite side where it's actually hurtful. And I'm really hoping we end up in like a happy balanced medium where people are self-aware of their needs and learn how to be accepting of other people at the same time. Okay, that's the end goal. So we talk more about that later, but that's another piece of that contributes to anxiety, is learning how to have those crucial conversations um and realize how much people actually do care about keeping you in their life and vice versa. Fourth category is the category of stability and recognizing basic human needs. So this is financial security, housing security, food security, job security. This is the hierarchy of, who created the hierarchy of needs? Name's on the tip of my tongue.
Maslow.
Thank you. Yes, Maslow. So Maslow hierarchy of needs, for anyone who's ever been through housing insecurity, financial insecurity, job insecurity, that's kind of like that baseline permeating thing that like you don't even realize how much it's affecting you. And all I want to comment on for that is that there are more resources out there often than we're aware of to support us in turning those situations around. Between debt consolidation, there's nonprofits that help people with debt consolidation outside of your normal models of that. There's financial counseling available. There's nonprofit things that help with job placement. There's church-led organizations that support with housing and resources and food. There's a lot of resources out there. And for any of you who have ever worked in social work or public health or government programs, it's like, I'm sure you can relate to that frustration you feel when you feel like the people who need the programs the most are not accessing them. They're like, oh, the people who actually need this are like so stressed right now. They're not even accessing this program that could help them. And yeah, it's a very heartbreaking phenomenon because those programs are literally designed to help people who need them. So what I would say here is just, become aware of all the resources available out there to help with those categories. There are a lot of nonprofits. There are a lot of church-led organizations. There's a lot of government programs that can help people with these needs. So whether that's you or you're there to help someone else in these situations, I certainly don't think that's off the table if you're practicing holistic health to help support someone in getting connected to resources that will help satisfy some of those human needs. Right. So that's the fourth category. And the fifth and final category is spiritual health. And this is related to the path of the human spirit and the needs of the human spirit to fulfill its potential in this life. So that is a topic that's certainly going to vary person to person. And Uh, Definitely that practice of spiritual connection is also going to vary person to person. But um, this category was actually initially called alignment, just because you can have, the right health with a stable house, with good communication skills, filled with people you love. And if your heart feels like it's not on the track it's destined to be on, that can create a level of subtle misery in the human spirit right there. So that's the category of, doing what it takes to get things into alignment so that there's not that little voice in the back of the head saying you should be doing something else right now, or how much longer is this going to last where you're ignoring this. That's that little voice in the back of the head that's related to life path, purpose, hobbies, expression, art, um, just potential, human potential. And what I want to share in that category is, I've noticed in myself and in other people, is usually what it takes to get that into alignment. Sometimes it is dramatic, but other times it's actually a lot more subtle than we're expecting. You got people who feel like they have a suppressed artist inside of them. And they're like, do I need to quit my day job to be an art? But they're not even taking time. They're not even taking an hour a week to work on their hobbies. They're not even taking an hour a week. And they're wondering if they need to quit their day job and do something else with their life. So all I'm saying is it's often surprising how minute the shift can be to actually fulfill that category, to experience fulfillment there. Is often, sometimes we think we need some huge change, but sometimes it's actually a little thing. It can be surprising actually what can satisfy that urge to experience expression or achieve alignment. So, and I'm sure other times it is big, but that's the commentary I want to make about that, is just doing the little things that make your soul feel alive. So that's a very holistic approach to this thing we call mental health. I'm going to go ahead and share the graphic of this model in the chat right now. So you can grab it out of there. It covers biology, psychology, connection, security, and alignment. Those are the 4 categories listed. So you can download that image. And I'm also going to share a link to the Google Doc that has the list of the practitioners. Again, this list will be added to. So just save this link because there's going to be a lot more where this came from. And there's a few of these Calendly links I need to update. So just save it because I'm going to add some Calendly links in there tonight. Some sessions I would recommend right off the bat would be doing an emotion code or a body code session. Very fascinating to see, if there's any trapped emotions that are affecting things. Life coaching sessions are awesome, just to spill out everything on your mind to someone, and they're just listening there to help you identify, where there could be some shifts. Hypnotherapy is a little bit deeper. You definitely need to trust your hypnotherapist before you do that session, because the goal is for you to trust them enough to allow yourself to reach a theta wavelength in the conscious mind, like while you're still awake. And that requires some trust. So make sure you find a hypnotherapist you feel aligned with for that. Yeah, NLP, I got to add Catherine Addison. There's a few people I'm going to add to that list, but they're all great practitioners. So I will conclude this overview of these topics by sharing my optimism in how better people can get with the right support. The only thing I want to mention to you is just don't judge yourself for how much help it might take for you to feel better again. Because sometimes it's easy to feel discouraged. Like, I already tried this session. I went to that workshop. I tried this. I tried that. It's like, how broken am I? How much is it going to take to feel better again? I just want to say, like, please remove that judgment. we couldn't possibly know how much support was built into our social settings back in the day, and you don't have that Grandpa Larry to talk to every weekend. You're not, maybe singing in the church choir and changing your brainwave state by singing out loud, whether it was church or around a fire. Like, we don't know how much of this was already built into day-to-day living in the past, and we don't know how much 21st century stressors have put on people, and we don't know the effects of heavy metals on our receptor sites, and we don't know the extent of inherited generational trauma on the nervous system. Like, there's so many things we don't know. The last thing you need to do is just think that you're broken because it takes a little bit of effort to help you feel better. There's a lot facing people today, and it's absolutely worth it for you to get the support you need. Like, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. So just please eliminate all judgment, that you may have for yourself to be on that path. Because yeah, you're totally worth the support. And I wish that half of college tuition was set aside towards helping people with personal development, because that's really what it takes to get out there and be successful. And instead, we hardly spend any time on it. We teach people about facts and figures and history and financial models and textbooks, and then send them out there, and they're kind of left on their own. So I hope you get that support here in this community. And I, from the bottom of my heart, am grateful to all of the mentors who took the time to work with me and help me live with a happier, healthier headspace. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful to those people who put the time into me. So yeah, that concludes this discussion about helping anxiety in adults.